The underworld was not a story. The underworld was something that was a reality that had a gun to each and every one of our heads. Every day there was a shootout in the neighborhood.
Violence was in our everyday lives. That time the gangs were a reality, and you were reading about it every day and discussing with your friends, and you'd always have a friend's friend who knew a gangster.
Watched the film just for one thing, just to know what this city was those days. I went to meet Mr. Ram Gopal Varma for some other role in Dord, and he happened to know that that I am the one who played Bansing in Bandit Queen, and he loved my performance in that film. He loved Bandit Queen so much that he wanted to make a film on Mumbai Mafia which would be as good as Bandit Queen.
Though I believe Dord is one of the fabulous films Ramu sir has made, I don't know why उनको लगा कि ये film ना may not work. So he wanted to start off Satya much before Dord even gets released.
He asked me to introduce him to all the new talents which were working in the industry, which were there in theatre.
And Manoj came to me, he says, Ramu is looking for a young writer. And I told him about you. Would you meet him? So I said, हाँ मिल लेता हूँ. So everybody in Media Classic was excited. Shriram, Shivam, everybody was fan of Ram Gopal Varma. We all went to see Rangila together, I remember, in Goregaon. So I went to meet Ramu. So that's how, like one car drive and to the sets of Dord, and I was logged as a writer to start working on this idea, which was just an idea. Then at one point Ramu said, "Tu bahut chota hai. You're too young. I need a little mature mind also on the film." So we got Saurabh.
I remember I got a call from Anurag Kashyap. He said ki Ramu wants to meet you because he's making a film. But I was not really interested in writing at that point of time, and I was the whole night I was rehearsing कि boss अगर मुझे लिखने के लिए बोला तो then I'll say कि I don't write. But if it's an acting assignment, I'll definitely do it. And the very next day I went to Ramu's house, which was in 4 bungalows. The first thing he said that I wanted to play the character of Kallu Baba in the film. And I was very happy. And then the second line he said, and I also want you to write it. And I was stuck.
So I started to work in film by doing promos for feature films. The company I was working for received a new project to do, and it happened to be Ram Gopal Varma's Dord. He came himself to watch the trailer, and he was blown. He loved it. I mean, the word he used was mind-blowing.
My first job in Bombay was at Amit Khanna's Plus channel, and Anurag Kashyap was writing it. So he was the primary writer, and I was an AD on that. And I think he saw me work 20 hours a day, and he was the one who told me that Ramu, who has made, I said, yes, I've seen Rangila. So वो film बना रहे हैं और मैं चाहता हूँ कि तुम मिलो.
He had a red Maruti S-Team, and he would play music. Have you heard this music director? Have you heard this? He used to play Vishal Bhardwaj songs. So there was something clearly going on in his head, which he one day shared with me. And he said, bro, I'm making this film. It's about Bombay's underworld. I remember saying to him, I said, Ramuji, please let me assist you on this film. I wanted to be his assistant director. So he said, why assist, Apurva? You edit the film.
I think they felt that they were doing a different kind of film, and they wanted an outside eye, somebody not familiar with Mumbai, not familiar necessarily with any aspects of the city, to see how an outsider would view it. Was just hired to teach full-time at a university, and before starting I took a leave of absence to go to India and shoot it.
I've kind of reminded Ram Gopal Varma that you have worked with one actress, and I think you should consider her for my wife's role. And when I said Shefali, and she kind of jumped up, he said, yes, fantastic, she's a very good actor, please ask her to call me.
I just landed in US. Ramu sir called me and he said, so how was your trip? I said, yes, sir, great. So, can you come back tomorrow? I said, sir, I'm in America. He said, yeah, come back. It took me 3 days or 4 days to come back. So I came back and I went to meet him. I don't know why I could see that look on his face. He was a little disappointed. So he spoke and blah, 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 blah. And then he said, yeah, ठीक है, तू हैदराबाद निकल जा, मैं तेरे को phone करता हूँ. So he said, क्या? I came back to Hyderabad. After 3-4 days, he flew down to Hyderabad for some other work and he came home. I opened the door and he looked at me and I said, hey, Ramu sir. He just looked at me and said, yeah, you're playing Satya. I said, what? So when I opened, I was so unwell. And the whole my body language and my entire demeanor was like, yeah, Ramaji, yeah, tell me. Because I was unwell. And in that he found Satya. Now see, this is a very funny story. If you are waiting for me to say actually, he was very searching for an intense actor, where then he saw me doing that blah blah blah, then it will be a big lie. So this is how Satya happened.
सत्या, तुमने कभी बताया नहीं
क्या?
अपने बारे में, कहाँ के हो, अपनी फैमिली के बारे में?
One of the first things he said to me, and he kind of stuck with that line. Bro, a man comes from nowhere to Bombay City. You know, this is his story.
Till date, nobody ever asked, Satya, कहाँ से आया था वो कहाँ का है? वो यूपी से, आंध्र प्रदेश से, तेलंगाना से, एमपी से है.
I think that was like a big difference to tap into a story, to not really get into the origins or let us sympathize with the problems that he faced with the system and society, and hence he took up arms. But the fact that this is what he believed in and this is what he is, even as we enter the story, I think that wasn't done before.
We had that fear, and I remember that we all discussed it at different times with Ramu, and we said, but do we need a background to the character? I mean, who's he?
Ramuji was very clear about when an outsider comes into the underworld, and his mind, it's like he was like, let's put Howard Roke in the underworld, and he's a man of few words, and he says just the thing that throws everyone off. So it was like that, a man who lacks emotions enters the underworld, and then what happens when he gets emotionally attached?
Is actually Ram Gopal Varma in disguise on the set, right? The celluloid representation of the filmmaker is Satya.
So there's a shot where I have actually done a flip and then shot, and everybody clapped on the sets. Ramu sir also clapped. He took me aside and said, what were you doing? I said, see, whatever I was doing, sir, I think everybody loved it, they clapped. I think it's a clapping moment. He said, this is not Satya. Satya doesn't work for claps. Satya is not judo. Satya has never learned how to fight. Satya works with his brains. He is not even a shooter. He's just started randomly. मतलब किसी को shoot कर रहा है सत्या, अगर गोली नहीं लगती है ना तो that would be Satya.
Me and Saurabh would go to Chennai sometimes, to Hyderabad, and whatever we wrote was dumped in the dustbin. So then it started with Ramuji's style of writing a 1-pager, 4-pager. Where first scene, Satya arrives in Mumbai. Satya finds a house to live in. Satya, this one line, and then one line was elaborated into the scenes while he went on to the shoot.
A lot of it had that unscripted feel. But what was scripted is Makarand, like lawyer Mule and Saurabh scene at the balcony.
लेकिन बिल्कुल को समझा क्या उसका कर्म खोपड़ी अभी नहीं चलेगा.
Which were information moving the plot, but matter है बोलने को.
क्या बे कितना समझा क्या है अभी पहले जैसा बात नहीं रहा है
Well, there was no script to read in Satya. It was being created as the film was being made. I'm sure Anurag and Sadam and Ramu told you that. I never got a script ahead of time.
So Satya comes home to see people have gathered, Vidya's parent has died. This is how it is. It would be improvised at location out there.
Satya's script was, I think, 2 or 3 pages. So, it was like, Ramu sir had, like, whenever we used to ask him, he used to narrate the entire story in a flow. So, everything was here, I suppose.
He wanted to make a film and he had a set of characters in his mind and a milieu and some incidents he had in mind. So, pretty much there was this boiling pot where everything was available. The dish had to be made. People ask me that how many people wrote the film. Officially, we two, but then definitely Ramu is the third writer and one of the main writers actually, because it all generated from him. The fourth writing credit actually goes to actors, because actors improvised a lot and it was included in the film, which is part of the film script now.
चल अभी निकाल पैसा ए मातरपा ज्यादा शार्ट पट्टी नहीं क्या दाढ़ी उस तरह देख के गीला हो गया हाँ
Satya is instructed, Chakravarti is instructed by Ram Gopal Varma to take that knife and twist it and slash the guy's face, right? And the moment Satya does that and cuts his face, what this actor, is going to perform, okay, is, we don't know. It has not been rehearsed. So you're expecting him to go, nahi chodega tere ko, whatever, that kind of a thing.
The way he reacts is, Ramu is suddenly like, I need a wider shot. And then the whole thing changed and he just loved the way Sushant reacted. He cast him in Jungle afterwards. Uska role bhi bad gaya. Sushant, because I knew Sushant because of a common friend from Delhi and he was a theatre guy, so I brought him for the film.
It was new. It was unexpected. And I think a lot of people attribute things changed post that. Choices were made differently post Sushant's reaction. I feel like, the film not being scripted and being open enough to these kind of interpretations at every level was, I think, Satya's biggest strength.
Very third day of the shoot, the tragedy happened and Gulshan Kumar was shot dead.
Just a few hundred meters from where we were shooting was shot dead, bullets riddled into his body.
Lots of people from the industry started calling Ramu sir and asked him to stall this film because this is being made on Underworld.
My mum, after the Gulshan Kumar assassination, she started to ask me not to go to the set. She would be like, okay, look, you're the editor. Why do you have to be on the set? And that made me all the more excited to be part of it there, because you knew that your whole crew was, that we were risking our lives to make this film. More so Ram Gopal Varma than anyone else.
Gulshan Kumar was very, I think Ramoji was very close to him also and it was kind of, it shocked everybody what happened. So that changed the script. And that also changed the way the film was.
So that was brought into the script later?
It was 3 days after the shoot.
So
3 days after the shoot, the script changed again.
When the producer was shot, it was a friend of Ramu's, I believe. So I'm sure that's why that scene with the film director made it into the film.
So a common friend was telling me that he woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning and then he was at 8 o'clock he spoke to me and this and that. So we have this habit of recounting details after his sudden death about what happened to the person. So a funny thought crossed my mind. If this person woke up at 7, what time did the killer wake up? You know, did he tell his mother to wake him up, or did he have his breakfast before killing or after killing? So it started as a funny thought, very frankly. But then I suddenly realized we know about these people only either when they kill or when they die. What do they do in between? I thought that's what the film should be about. The normal life of a gangster.
I told Ramu, I said, Ramu, there are 2 films which are great films in gangster genre. One is Godfather and the other one is Goodfellas. Both are great films. But the only difference between them is that when I see Godfather, I admire the world, I admire the characters, but I don't feel scared of the characters because they seem like, yeah, aise log hain, but they are not in my life. Whereas Goodfellas has this quality that it gets into your skin.
If you remember, films before Satya made an underworld. I don't know why the villains used to wear, or the underworld used to wear those long coats and hats, and then I don't know why 2 girls, it was mandatory to have well makeup, all that beautiful 2 girls standing aside. That was always the underworld.
That's why there are scenes like you will see that when he's talking about the first killing, Bhiku Mahatre, his introduction scene, कि पीछे बैकग्राउंड में बच्चा है, बच्चे हैं 2, फिर एक औरत है जो उसकी वाइफ है. So what? They are in the business of killing people. Their daily routine is like everybody else. They also drink tea. Indian audience ने ऐसा देखा नहीं था. तो of course वाइफ ऐसे ही रिएक्ट करेगी ना यार. वाइफ कोई गैंगस्टर से डरी भी थोड़ी ना रहेगी. वो तो उसकी वाइफ है.
बोलो ना चुप, एकदम चुप. देख भाई अलन अपना इधर. भाई आया ना? तू जा भाई के साथ जा. इसको लेके जाओ तुम. इसको लेके जाओ. घर आने की जरूरत नहीं है तेरे को. बोल ना बस करने के लिए नहीं बोल रहा है तेरे को. बस.
For Ramoji, I don't know, the 2-3 moments that I remember, he came out and he says like, I didn't see it coming. One was Shefali Chai and Manoj Bajpayee's argument scene when he comes back home, and the way she reacted, the way Manoj acted, and Manoj and Shefali were very close friends at that time. वो दोनों एक्टर्स अपने जोन में चले गए. रामू जी भी कट नहीं बोलते थे, वो चलता रहता था.
उसके सामने ऐसा बोल रही थी तू मेरे को. तू मेरे को मारी? हाँ मारी. मैं तेरे को मारूंगा.
The film is obsessed with exploring the softness of these hardened criminals, and that's how the movie uses these 2 women, Rani and Vidya. Bhiku Mahatre अगर मुंबई का king है तो उसकी wife भी रानी है. She's the queen. Her name is literally Rani.
That was like a great moment in the film because that is something that you don't expect. That is something you don't expect a filmmaker to dwell in, because if all that machismo and all that bravado is taken off this character in that 1 second, and which is what probably is Satya so great.
मैं इसको पिक्चर लेके गया था. वो कौन सी छिपकली वाली पिक्चर? छिपकली? हाँ छिपकली वाली पिक्चर. क्या नाम था उसका? हाँ जीजा माता पार्क नाम था उसका. जीजा माता पार्क. Jurassic Park.
Vidya, who is not related to this community at all, is there, and she views Bhiku Mahatre as a normal guy, and she's laughing at their jokes and is not being threatened by them at all. And that's the first time Satya feels that maybe I can marry her and get her to my world. And the camera kind of lingers on everyone who's laughing, and you go to Satya and he just breaks out into a small smile, thinking, life could be better.
Ramu sir walks in and I told him, sir, superb, huh? Yes, went through the scenes, amazing. He read. He said, superb. Anurag, fantastic. He just tore it and he just put it away. He said, Anurag, don't feel bad कि मैंने फाड़ दिया पेपर को, ऐसा नहीं कि because इतना अच्छा, इतना बढ़िया है लाइन कि मैं कहीं टेम्प्ट ना हो जाऊं कि इसमें से कुछ चुरा के यूज कर लूं. अनुराग से चिराने की क्या जरूरत है रामू? This is I wrote for you. He said no. What if Satya? That was the first scene of Satya. Okay, opening his mouth. So that's the reason I was so super thrilled कि चलो मैं इतने लाइंस बोल रहा हूँ. एज यू नो, लगता है कि एक्टर्स को, हम लोगों को, कि जितने ज़्यादा लाइंस हैं तो उतना बढ़िया सीन बनेगी हमारे लिए. देन ही सेड, अगर वो बोल रहा है कि बोल तेरे भाई को घर में घुस के मारूंगा, घर में घुस के मारूंगा. अगर कोई किसी को मारना चाहता है तो बोलने की ज़रूरत क्या है? What if he says, अगर मारना हो तो बोलने की ज़रूरत क्या है?
सुअर को घर में घुस के मारेगा मैं.
अगर मारना हो तो बोलने की ज़रूरत क्या है?
मतलब?
गुरुनारायण को एक झटके में साफ करना चाहिए बिना कुछ बोले.
हम लोग तो we used to watch things through his eyes only, and this was very democratic setup. He used to let us all say our point of views, and at the end of the day he says, okay, हो गया अभी, now let me do it, out.
Also, my favorite sequence is the chase sequence before we kill Guru Narayan. I think that is something that I can never forget.
तो रामू सर said एक काम करते हैं, let us shoot it randomly. So you and Manoj then start chasing a guy and start shooting him. So it will have a real effect. So we all were excited. Yeah.
I got the call early in the morning from the production that we have to rush to the bridge. We had the permission for the bridge but not for the road. But we had to run from the pavement, cross the road, then go on the bridge. And that's how much rush we were into finishing the scene.
You are actually stopping the traffic because they run, they cross the street और तब तो वहाँ वो स्लम्स वगैरह बहुत थे. तो कौन कैमरे में देख रहा है, कौन नहीं देख रहा है, कैसे हैंडल, दैट वाज रियली टफ.
It was the time when actually gangsters were there. Now you don't encounter them so much. But the point is, at that time, if you rub somebody on the wrong side, कि अरे हट सामने से कैमरे के, आपने तो बोल दिया पर पता लगा 2 गोलियां चली और आप नीचे हैं.
And we were shooting in Lokhandwala market without taking permission. And the cameras were on the rooftop, and one camera was in the jeep. Guru Narayan is running, and Satya and Bhikkhu Mahatre are running after him with the gun in their hand. The entire Lokhandwala shutters started coming down. They actually thought that there is some shootout happening. So I cannot forget that. All the things after killing him that I say, it's all improvised. It was all we didn't have the scene.
One of our chief associates, his name is Tawfiq, he was sitting in the van. He started calling, "Arey Manoj, Chakri, bas, aajao. Just got into the van, and we see the real police coming. Just imagine, 30 seconds we would have been still standing there and trying to perform, they would have shot us.
In a film like this, I believe Mumbai is one of the characters as much as any of the other characters. So it becomes critical that you take in the background as much as you can, because it's the background that they grew up in that influenced their development and influences their actions. The Ganesh Festival, we were shooting on the top of a roof to try and capture the reality of the festival in the street.
You have real Bombay B-roll footage of Ganpati Visarjan, which is so quintessentially Bombay, that scale, right? captured magnificently, you know, when you're talking about massive idols. These guys sitting on the editing room say, is it possible for us to now kill Bhau Thakurdas Jhavle in this thing that was shot 9 months ago, right? I've never seen anything like that happen.
There were multiple cameras, 3 cameras I think that day, but I was on the top of a building with the widest lens. Ramuji was handheld.
So they're planning all of that. The DOPs are planning what kind of light, but that was shot during the monsoon, it's not this, it's that. So all these kind of discussions are happening, and this scene is being devised and shot so long after I kind of shot the film.
And I took the top angle shot in the suggestion of Ganpati when Bau's body kind of just, it is floating after he dies. That was one incredible thing because the actor is so brilliant going on there. He actually felt he died, Maybe something happened, which we couldn't control because he was in the thing, and because it was so uncanny to see his body just lolling in the water.
No, nothing. I disagreed with the way Bhikkhu Matre was shot in the film, and we had massive arguments, and then after a point he started laughing. He said, I'm wasting my time arguing with you. My film, I'll do it my way. In your film, you do a death scene differently. And we went and shot that film and I was sulking. And it worked on screen. So you learn from it. So it worked big time on screen. I was like, acha, it does really work. Because my logic mein phasa hua tha. The impact of which you see is Ransa's death in Gulal. See, I'm saying how things change your perception. It was his generosity. He treated all of us like a friend. He never treated anybody like an AD and all that. And he had a very sarcastic sense of humor. If I would give an idea and he wouldn't like, he said, Anurag, good idea. Put it in your film. If you make it.
Out of the interaction that I had with RGB when he was one day telling a group of us how he shot that scene where Bhau Thakur's character shoots Bhikkhu. There were different interactions as to how it should be shot and all that. He said, in the end I realized I don't want to know at what point Bhau will shoot Bhikkhu. I just arranged 2 cameras. I told everybody I'll keep 2 cameras running, and I whispered to Govind Namdev that you shoot whenever you feel like, so that if we don't know when it's going to happen, the audience will not know when it's going to happen.
It was a shock for the audience. I still remember going to so many theatres and watching people in complete shock. The character that they loved so much, is gone with the flick of a finger.
हम लोग के सामने तो शूटिंग के पहले ही बताया गया, डाला गया था, भिक्खू मात्रे को मारेंगे इसमें. रामू जी के दिमाग में हमेशा रहता था. He used to play with things in his head. See, it's like when you become a filmmaker, you understand that. He always knew it. Film was called Satya for a reason. Film was not called भिक्खू Matre. Because ending, he was always very clear. This is the ending of the film. And Bhikkhu, to keep Bhikkhu alive, would have come in the way of the ending. Bhikkhu died to give Satya the ending.
In fact, Satya works because of that. Satya works because he could have run away with Kallu Mama but decides to come back and dies. Satya wouldn't have been the Satya if Satya would have escaped. It had to come full circle.
I don't think that any of us actually met a gangster, except Ramu.
There was one person who was part of the production who was helping us find locations, Ajit Diwani.
Ramuji's red S-Team and Ajit had a golden color Maruti 1000 or S-Team. वो थे, and he says, मैं तेरे को छोड़ देता हूँ. So suddenly we saw boss's car overtake our car, come and stand in front. And Ganesh the driver came and said कि नहीं मैम आप उस गाड़ी में मत बैठो. He said कि whatever it is, you don't sit with Ajit Diwani. So if that was a hint, that was like biggest hint he could have said.
I believe that he had, he had some kind of information to give, stories and incidents to Ram Gopal Varma. I can't say this with certainty, but there's enough documentation out there where people have spoken about Ajit Diwani. Ajit Diwani was killed just after Satya came out.
We all knew it, that there's something very special we are doing. Now that very special, will it be understood by people? We had no idea.
I went to every single show practically of Satya for the first month. Every theatre that screened it in Bombay. I went from one theatre to other. And the main ones were Eros, where the film released, and there was Plaza Theatre in Dadar. I mean, the reactions were nice, but it did feel like the film hadn't flown.
I think people were not prepared for what it's going to be, but so the coming in audience was skeptical, but when they saw the film, I think they were thoroughly blown by it.
Friday कुछ 70-75% opening लगी थी Eros में. कुछ तो हम लोग कॉन्फिडेंस by Sunday it was 99%. And like suddenly the way the film picked up and became houseful, it was quite surreal for us.
Not only were the numbers increasing, the engagement with the film was increasing a lot. So you suddenly had people in the audience that were the front benchers, okay, that were starting to own the film. So if anybody said a gali, hey mother part, city,
The curse words were not very common in Hindi films, they were censored out. So I remember when character that Sushant Singh is playing, when he says chutiye for the first time to Satya outside the tabela, and that was the first time the cheers came out and all that.
I was 17 when Satya came out, and I was in school, so I had no plans of becoming a filmmaker or doing anything with films at that point of time. But I still remember resonating with that kind of storytelling of that film and enjoying it for it not being melodramatic, not being over the top.
When Manoj Bajpayee goes up there, stands on top of the cliff, the edge.
Mumbai ka king kaun? Bhiku Matre!
When that scene happens, I don't think people heard the rest of the scene.
Bhiku Matre became quite a favorite with the mafias, the policemen, the politicians, not only of Maharashtra but all over the country.
It was all about the audience. It was their film now. It was not even your film anymore.
They saw the reflection of themselves, and I saw it in the stall, so it was full of that kind of crowd.
Was talking to the people in the balcony who were looking at, this is what's happened to our city, a city under siege, right? It was talking to the critics, who were like, cinematically, you've made it able to achieve this. It basically spoke, a little bit to everyone.
क्या रे सत्या?
क्या भिकू भाई? अरे पूरा मुंबई लफड़े में ब्लास्ट हो गया और सत्या एकदम फास्ट हो गया. क्या?
It was path-breaking just for someone to think and execute something like that they felt would reach out to the audiences, and and he was so right with just the way the use of dark humor, the way use of performances, use of actors, use of spaces. So if it comes out today, I don't think the film will be dated in any which way. It will still be very contemporary and massy, and people would like to go and watch it. That's the fantastic thing about Satya.
The last scene between Kallu Mama and Satya, where he goes and says, "Ek mauka de de." I can't remember specifically, but I think I've ripped off that moment in so much of the work that I have done. I think there's a moment in Jubilee as well where one guy goes and says, "Ek mauka de de bas."
The very North Indian Punjabi culture that was dominant because of Yash Chopra. So we knew that was Hindi cinema, but we didn't know how to express ourselves in that system. It wasn't that they weren't great films, they were obviously great films, but we didn't know how to see our representation. But once Maniratnam came in, once Ram Gopal Varma came in, once Anurag Kashyap came in, we saw that aim, we can make films.
It was a magic for me. I never thought that I'll end up becoming so famous.
It's given every crew member a stamp on their cinematic passports that is supremely coveted.
I've never worked with any film which has given so much of power to actors to really create and improvise.
We used to shoot on films then. He gave me a can to go and shoot the shots of Satya coming into Bombay. These, kabutar jo udte hai, इस तरह के shots लेने को भेजा. It became a learning ground also for me because I was there at the conceiving stage, writing stage, shooting stage, dubbing stage, the entire post-production. Like every day sound was designed, the sound design, background score, everything was happening simultaneously at Media Artist in Chennai. I spent so much time on that one film, it became my film school.
He had that very democratic attitude, Ram Gopal Varma, where nobody was bigger than the film or the story. And everyone was subservient to that and humble to that. So you were all equal. And in that spirit, I think Satya was born and was made.
That's why people who worked in Satya, they own the film. That's the best thing which can happen in a film. So it was not, we never had this feeling that, oh, this is Ramu who's doing it. We always thought, oh, this is me who's doing it.
More than 100 films he would have produced and he would have given chances to lots of actors, technicians. अगर आपको ये लगता है तो ये गलत है. Ramu sir never ever given chances to anyone. He always took chances.
All of us were rebels. All of us wanted to change something or the other. We didn't know where to start from. But here was this filmmaker who was so brave and so courageous, so fearless. And this is where we found our strength from.
And because there was a film full of newcomers, actors, technicians, even the assistants, all the assistants were like first, no experience before. It's energy that comes in because of so many new people translates into something. So I lost all my insecurity about when somebody says it doesn't work out like that. I said, no, I've seen it happen. I've seen a great film being made with no resources, with all newcomers, just a great energy.
And I remember Ramuji telling me one day at lunch at his house when I came to say, Ramuji, why are we not working together again? And he said, Apurva, I mean, you're doing well, it's happening for you, and everyone is, and yeah, you've edited Satya, this one's done this, and now do it. It's that kind of a thing. And I remember that's kind of stuck with me, And I often asked myself, I said, yes, we've all, luckily, if you look at it, everyone who's been part of Satya is still relevant today. That's the power of that film. But I often wonder if, captain of the ship, Ramuji, had held us all together, and we had made something else after that. Something else, what would we have done? Yeah, that's always something that's there at the back of my mind.
भेजे मैं ये भेजा शोर करता है गोली मार भेजे मैं कि भेजा शोर करता है भेजा किसने तो मरेगा कल
Most of the times, people who get to meet me, or used to meet me after Satya or now, the image of Satya is so strong in their heads. When I suddenly start talking normally like this, they get offended. They don't get disappointed, they get offended. कि सत्या को, हाँ, जब हम सत्या बना रहे थे, तो उस दरमियान. Yeah, this is how they expect me to talk, but guys, that was Satya, and this is me. I played Satya, I'm not Satya.